Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to explore something that literally every researcher, student, and data enthusiast needs to have in their toolkit. Picture this for a second. You're standing in a dimly lit, ultra-modern research lab. Right in front of you floats a massive, glowing 3D holographic onion with its layers pulsing in soft neon blue and purple light. Now you might be wondering, okay, why an onion? Well, in the world of academic and professional studies, that glowing onion represents your entire research decision-making process. And today we're going to meticulously peel back every single layer of that structure to show you exactly how to design a flawless study from the outside in. Okay, let's dive right into this. The research onion is a really renowned framework developed by Saunders, Lewis, and Thornhill back in 2007. It's, without a doubt, the ultimate organizational savior you need before you even think about touching a single piece of data. It visually maps out the layers of a research project that you have to navigate and peel back to finally reach the core, which is your actual data collection and analysis. Without this structure, honestly, research is just chaos. But with it, you've got a perfect step-by-step roadmap. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be introducing the research onion, looking at philosophy and knowledge approach, exploring strategy and data choices, setting the time horizon, and finally, reaching that analytical core. Let's start with part 1, introducing the research onion and its framework structure. Look, when you begin a project, this sheer scale of unstructured research can be totally overwhelming, right? You've got a million directions you could go. But this framework isn't just some abstract academic theory. It actually brings order to that chaos. Every single layer represents a vital, critical stage of decision-making that you absolutely must navigate. You can't just skip a layer. You have to make a specific choice at each boundary to successfully and logically reach your project's center. It forces you to build your methodology on a rock-solid foundation. Moving on to Section 2, Philosophy and Knowledge Approach, the outer layers. So Layer 1 is your research philosophy, and this is all about your mindset. On one side, we have positivism. Think of this as a world of cold, analytical logic, a digital grid of binary code and hard data charts. It's totally objective. But on the flip side, you have interpretivism. This is more like a warm, artistic watercolor of people sharing stories and expressing human emotion. It's highly subjective. As a researcher, you have to choose which world you're operating in. Are you measuring hard, objective facts, or are you interpreting subjective human experiences? The crucial point here is that Layer 1 matters because it dictates your foundational worldview. Why is it so important for you to lock this down? Because this outermost layer fundamentally colors every single subsequent choice you make. Pick positivism, and your path is naturally going to steer toward numbers. Pick interpretivism, and you're steering toward narratives. You've got to know where you stand before you take another step. Peeling that back, we move inward to Layer 2, the research approach. This is how you actually build or test knowledge. On one hand, we have the deductive approach. Picture a massive 3D pyramid building itself from the top down into a solid base. You start with a grand theory and you test it downward. On the other hand, there's the inductive approach. Here, small building blocks gather from the ground up to form a brand new structure. You're starting with specific observations and building upward to create a totally new theory. Now, Layer 2 is a massive decision gate for your academic journey because it determines the directional flow of your theory building. You really need to know this because asking yourself, am I testing something that already exists or am I building something entirely new, completely changes how you're going to approach your subject matter. All right, Section 3, Strategy and Data Choices. We are officially in the middle layers. We're shifting away from the abstract how we think and moving right into how we plan to execute. Welcome to Layer 3, your research strategy. This is where you decide the practical mechanics of your study. Are you going to use a digital tablet to deploy a massive checkbox survey? Are you acting like a scientist carefully pouring liquids into a beaker in a sterile lab for an experiment? Or are you taking a magnifying glass to a really thick, detailed folder for a deep dive case study? This layer is a big deal because it bridges your philosophical mindset with your physical execution. It's incredibly important for you to know your strategy because this is the vehicle that actually drives your research into the real world. Think about it. A grand theory is pretty useless if you don't choose the right real-world strategy to actually go out and test it. Now for Layer 4, your research choice. This is where you decide your data types. You could choose a mono method, relying on just a single stream of colorful quantitative numbers, or just handwritten qualitative text strings. Or you could choose mixed methods or multi-methods, where those numbers and words flow down separate paths and then brilliantly converge into a single comprehensive river of data. This layer matters entirely because it defines the exact types of data you're going to rely on. You have to make this choice because organizing your data streams, deciding if you want strictly numbers, strictly words, or a very specific blend, is a necessary gate to pass through before you can even begin to plan your project timeline. Which brings us to Section 4, Setting the Time Horizon, the final peel. For your time horizon, you generally have two choices. The first is cross-sectional. Imagine a camera zooming in on a single, frozen photographic snapshot of a busy city street intersection. It's a look at one very specific moment in time. The alternative is longitudinal. Imagine that same street intersection suddenly transitioning into a rapid time-lapse, changing seamlessly through the seasons from winter to summer, day to night. It's essentially a diary tracked over a long period. Layer 5 matters because it dictates the temporal scope and the personal commitment required for your study. As a researcher, you absolutely must anchor your project in time. Knowing whether you need a quick snapshot or a multi-year time-lapse is critical for managing your budget, your resources, and your own personal energy before you even start collecting data. And wow, this really brilliantly illustrates the journey we've taken so far. 1. Setting the philosophy. 2. Choosing the approach. 3. Planning the strategy. 4. Making the data choice. And 5. Defining the time horizon. It highlights the massive amount of foundational, structural work required before you ever conduct a single interview or send out a single survey. Finally, Section 5, Reaching the Analytical Core, Techniques and Procedures. We did it! We've successfully navigated all the abstract layers and reached the hyper-concrete execution phase. The core is the actual collection and analysis of your data. Frame this in your mind as the ultimate destination. This is where all your previous layered decisions, your philosophy, your strategy, your timelines, finally pay off in the real, tangible world. If we zoom right into the center of that glowing holographic onion we started with, the core opens up bright and triumphant to reveal your actual tools. We're talking clean, modern computer screens displaying complex statistical graphs, pulsing audio waveforms from deep dive interviews, and neatly organized digital folders of questionnaires. This is where the work actually happens. So we've mapped the entire framework. You know exactly what each layer means and exactly why it's critical for you to structure your methodology this way. By intentionally peeling back these layers, you ensure your research is rigorous, logical, and impactful. So the only question left for you as a focused learner and researcher is this. Now that you know how to peel the layers, what will your core reveal? Go out there, structure your methodology, and start discovering.